Hello and welcome to History at Night. Imagine waking before dawn in a world where honor was worth more than gold, where a single moment of hesitation could mean the difference between life and death, and where the weight of a sword at your side carried the responsibility of generations. This was the world of the samurai, a warrior class that shaped Japan for over 700 years. Tonight, we will step into their sandals and experience what it truly felt like to live as one of these legendary fighters. We will walk through their daily rituals, feel the weight of their armor, and understand the profound philosophy that guided every aspect of their existence. This is not just a story about swords and battles. This is an exploration of a way of life, so disciplined, so deeply rooted in tradition, that it created some of the most formidable warriors the world has ever known. But before we begin our journey into feudal Japan, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. It's a simple and wonderful way to support the channel, and it means a great deal to me. I'm also always curious to know where in the world and at what time you're joining me tonight. So I'd really love to hear from you in the comments. And now, settle in. Let the noise of the modern world fade away, and let us travel back to a time of cherry blossoms, castle walls, and the whispered code of Bushido. Your name is Takeshi, and you are a samurai in the service of Lord Matsudaira in the year 1580. The first thing you must understand about your existence is that you were born into this life. You did not choose to become a warrior any more than a farmer chose to work the rice fields, or a merchant chose to sell his wares. Your father was samurai, as was his father before him, stretching back through generations to the mists of time when your ancestors first took up the sword in service to their lords. This is not merely your profession. This is your blood, your destiny, and your sacred duty. You wake each morning in the hour before dawn, not to the gentle call of roosters, but to the disciplined rhythm that has governed your life since childhood. The wooden floors of your modest home creak softly beneath your feet as you rise from your futon. The air is crisp and carries the faint scent of incense from the family shrine, where you will soon pay your respects to your ancestors. Every movement you make is deliberate, controlled, precise. This is not accident, but the result of decades of training that began when you were barely old enough to hold a practice sword. Your daily routine begins with purification. You wash your hands and mouth with cold water, a ritual that prepares both body and spirit for the day ahead. At the family shrine, you light incense and bow deeply before the tablets bearing the names of your deceased ancestors. You speak their names quietly, asking for their guidance and protection. This is not mere superstition. Your ancestors are as real to you as the sword at your side. Their spirits watch over you, judge your actions, and will either welcome you with honor when you join them or turn away in shame if you fail in your duties. The weight of this ancestral presence shapes every decision you make. When you face an enemy in battle, you are not fighting alone. The spirits of your grandfather, who died gloriously defending his lord's castle, and your great-grandfather, who earned renown in the Genpei War, stand beside you. To retreat without cause, to show cowardice, or to act dishonorably would bring shame not just upon yourself, but upon generations of proud warriors who came before you. This knowledge sits in your chest like a stone, heavy and constant, but also strangely comforting. After paying respects to your ancestors, you turn your attention to your weapons. Your katana is not simply a tool of war, it is the physical manifestation of your soul, forged by master craftsmen who poured their skill and spirit into every fold of the steel. The blade was made through a process so sacred that the swordsmith purified himself before beginning, fasting and praying as he worked. The result is not merely sharp metal, but a work of art that can cut through armor as easily as silk, yet possesses a beauty that moves men to tears. You draw the sword slowly from its lacquered scabbard, examining the edge for any imperfection. The morning light catches the subtle grain of the steel, revealing the flowing patterns created during the forging process. Each line tells a story of fire and hammer, of patience and skill passed down through generations of craftsmen. You clean the blade with rice paper and oil, not because it's dirty, but because this daily ritual maintains the spiritual connection between warrior and weapon. As you work, you meditate on the responsibility this blade represents. It has the power to take life, to defend the innocent, and to preserve honor. With such power comes the absolute necessity of wisdom in its use. Your wakizashi, the shorter companion sword, receives the same careful attention. Together, these two blades form the daisho, the paired swords that mark you as a member of the warrior class. No other person in society is permitted to carry both swords. Merchants, farmers, and artisans may occasionally carry a single blade for protection, but the daisho is the exclusive privilege and burden of the samurai. When you step outside your home with both swords at your side, you announce to the world your status, your responsibilities, and your readiness to die in service to your lord. The morning ritual continues with physical conditioning. In a small courtyard behind your home, you practice kata, the formal exercises that have been passed down through your sword school for centuries. Each movement is precise, flowing seamlessly into the next. To an observer, it might appear to be a dance, but every gesture represents a killing technique, a defensive maneuver, or a spiritual principle made manifest through motion. Your muscles remember these patterns so completely that you could perform them in complete darkness or in the chaos of battle. As you move through the forms, your mind enters a state of focused calm that your teachers called mushin, or no mind. This is not emptiness, but rather a state of perfect awareness where thought and action become one. In this state, you do not decide to block an incoming strike and then move your sword. Instead, the threat is perceived and countered in a single, instantaneous response. Achieving mushin is the goal of every samurai, for in battle, the warrior who must think about his actions is already dead. The training courtyard holds memories of your childhood instruction. You can still feel the sting of your sensei's bamboo sword across your knuckles when your grip was wrong, or the sharp crack across your shoulders when your posture was poor. These were not punishments, but corrections designed to save your life when real steel replaced bamboo. Your teacher, a grizzled veteran of countless battles, would often say that sweat in training prevents blood in battle. Every bruise, every aching muscle, every moment of exhaustion was an investment in your survival. After your solo practice, you consume a simple breakfast of rice, miso soup, and pickled vegetables. The meal is modest, not from poverty, but from philosophy. Samurai are taught that excessive comfort weakens the spirit and makes one unprepared for hardship. You eat enough to maintain your strength, but never to the point of satisfaction. This discipline extends to all aspects of life. Your clothing is of good quality, but not ostentatious. Your home is clean and functional, but not luxurious. Everything in your environment serves a purpose, just as everything in your life must serve your duty to your Lord. As the sun rises higher, you prepare for the day's duties. This might involve administrative work, for samurai are not merely warriors, but also bureaucrats who help govern their lord's domain. You might review tax records, settle disputes between farmers, or inspect the defences of a border village. These tasks require the same dedication and attention to detail as swordplay. A mistake in administration can be as devastating to your lord's interests as a defeat in battle. The armour you don for formal occasions or combat is a masterpiece of both protection and artistry. Each piece is carefully fitted to your body, from the iron plates that protect your chest and back to the intricate helmet that bears your family's mon or crest. The process of donning armour is itself a ritual, with each piece put on in a specific order while reciting prayers or meditations. The weight of the armour, often 40 pounds or more, becomes familiar through constant practice until it feels like a second skin. Your horse, if you are fortunate enough to own one, is as much a partner as your sword. The bond between samurai and mount is forged through years of training together. Your horse knows the sound of your voice, the pressure of your legs, and the subtle shifts in weight that communicate your intentions. In battle, this partnership can mean the difference between life and death. A well-trained war horse will strike with its hooves, bite enemies who come too close, and carry its wounded rider to safety. The philosophy that guides your every action is Bushido, the way of the warrior. This is not written in any single book, but is passed down through stories, examples, and the living tradition of your class. Bushido teaches that death is preferable to dishonor, that loyalty to one's lord transcends all other considerations, and that a samurai must be prepared to die at any moment. This is not morbid fascination with death, but rather a profound understanding that accepting mortality frees one to live with complete authenticity and purpose. The code demands that you show compassion to those weaker than yourself, while remaining implacable toward enemies. You must be literate and cultured, able to compose poetry and appreciate art, yet ready to kill without hesitation when duty requires it. This balance between refinement and violence, between aesthetic sensitivity and martial prowess, defines the samurai ideal. You are expected to find beauty in the cherry blossom precisely because its bloom is brief, just as your own life may be cut short at any moment. Your relationship with your lord is the cornerstone of your existence. This is not mere employment, but a sacred bond that transcends life itself. Your lord provides you with rice stipends, a place to live, and purpose for your existence. In return, you pledge not just your service, but your life, your family's honor, and your descendants' future. This loyalty is absolute and unquestioning. If your lord orders you to attack an impregnable fortress knowing you will die, you attack without hesitation. If he commands you to commit seppuku, to take responsibility for a failure, you prepare your short sword with gratitude for the opportunity to preserve your honor through death. This bond with your lord extends beyond the political into the deeply personal. You know his preferences in food, his moods, his concerns about his family and domain. When he is troubled, you feel that weight upon your own shoulders. When he achieves victory, your heart swells with pride, as if the accomplishment were your own. This is not servitude in the Western sense, but rather a spiritual unity where your individual identity becomes inseparable from your role in service to something greater than yourself. The castle where your lord resides becomes your second home. You know every stone of its walls, every creak of its wooden, from it's a symbol of your times of peace, you might. Every sightline floors present as towers. During duties, participating spend days there, attending to administrative and ceremonies, or simply being lord's power, but a complex and authority. The social castle is not merely a fortress organism where dozens of samurai families live and work together, each bound by the same codes, your own existence, alties that govern and loy. Hierarchy this community. Within is absolute and visible. Your position samurai is determined by your family relative to other, your personal achievements, and your lord's history's favour. This ranking affects everything from where you sit during formal meals to which armour you are permitted to wear in battle. Yet this hierarchy is not resented but embraced, for it provides order and clarity in a world where chaos lurks just beyond the castle walls. Everyone knows their place, their duties, and their relationships to others. This certainty creates a profound sense of security even in the most dangerous times. Your wife, if you are married, understands her role within this warrior culture as completely as you understand yours. She manages the household with the same discipline that you bring and attention to honor to your martial duties. She can handle a naginata, the curved blade polearm favored by samurai women, and would not hesitate to defend your home and children if circumstances demanded it. Her clothing, her speech, and her demeanor all reflect the dignity of your family's position. She raises your children to understand their place in the world and their obligations to the family name. Your children begin their education in the warrior arts almost as soon as they can walk. Boys start with wooden swords, learning the basic stances and movements that will eventually into deadly developed study techniques. They calligraphy, poetry, mathematics, and military strategy, alongside their physical training. Girls learn the domestic arts that will make them suitable to the philosophical other samurai, but wives for they also study martial skills and warrior principles that govern families. Both sons and daughters are taught that their individual desires are secondary to the family's honour and their duty to their station. The seasonal provide rhythms of the year structure to your existence beyond the daily routines of training and service. Spring brings the cherry blossom viewing parties where samurai families gather to appreciate the fleeting beauty of the flowers while composing poetry and strength bonds. The scening social mere entertainment, but opportunities gatherings are not displayed to cultural refinement and to reinforce the networks of loyalty and obligation that hold society together. A well-composed poem or a graceful gesture of hospitality can enhance your family's reputation just as surely as prowess in battle. Summer months often bring military campaigns as lords seek to expand their territories or settle disputes with neighbours. These expeditions test everything you have learned and practiced. The reality of campaign life is harsh beyond the imagination of those who have never experienced it. You marching son wearing for hours under the blaz on heavy armour, sleep the hard ground with only your cloak for comfort, and eat cold rice and dried fish while remaining constantly alert for enemy scouts or surprise attacks. During these campaigns, you witness the terrible beauty sight of battle, the of mounter of hundreds of samurai charging across a field, their coloured them, their warful banners streaming behind cries echoing off distant mountains, creates a spectacle that moves the soul even as it terrifies. The thunder of hoofbeats, the crash of weapons meeting armour, and the sharp crack of breaking spear shafts create a symphony of violence that becomes seared into your memory. In these moments, all your training crystallizes into instinctive action as you fight not just for victory, but for the safety honour of your ancestors' raidis. The psychological of your calm experience of combat is unlike anything else in human existence. Time seems to slow and accelerate simultaneously. You become acutely aware of every detail around you while also operating on pure instinct. The face of an enemy warrior charging toward you with his katana raised becomes frozen in your memory with perfect clarity, yet your response to his attack happens faster than conscious thought. Your body remembers its training even when your mind is overwhelmed by the chaos and noise of battle. Campaigns, autumn. Between brings harvest times of festivals and the preparation for winter. These are reflection and gratitude when you give thanks for surviving another year and prepare spiritually for whatever challenges the next year might bring. The changing colours of the maple leaves remind you of the impermanence that lies at the heart of Buddhist teaching and samurai philosophy. Just as the leaves must fall, so too must your own end. Life eventually. This awareness of mortality does not bring despair, but rather a deep appreciation for each moment of existence. Winter provides time for intensive training and study. The shorter days and cold weather create opportunities for indoor activities like calligraphy, studying military treatises, and engaging in philosophical discussions with other samurai. These intellectual pursuits are not separate from your martial identity, but essential components of it. A samurai who can only fight is considered incomplete, lacking the cultural refinement that distinguishes the warrior class from mere soldiers. Your relationship with death evolves throughout your life as a samurai. In youth, death seems distant and abstract, something that happens to others, but not to yourself. As you mature and witness friends fall in battle or die from disease, death becomes a more present reality. You begin to understand that your teachers were not speaking metaphorically when they said that a samurai must die before going into battle. This death is not physical, but psychological, a letting go of attachment to life that paradoxically allows you to fight with complete commitment and clarity. The tea ceremony provides a counterpoint to the violence of your existence. In that defines much the quiet tea, youth in ritual of preparing and sharing a different kind of perfection, one based on harmony, appreciation rather, respect, and aesthetic than martial prowess. The appreciation attention to each gesture of the tea implements beauty, and the peaceful interaction with guests create where the warrior can a space explore other aspects of human experience. Yet even here, the principles of discipline and mindful attention that govern your martial training remain paramount. Your understanding of honor deepens with experience and reflection. What seemed like simple rules in youth reveal themselves to be complex philosophical principles that must be applied with wisdom and discretion. The young samurai might see honor as never retreating from a fight, while the mature warrior understands that sometimes withdrawal serves a higher purpose. The in-following challenge lies not rigid rules, but in turning how with integrity in each unique situation you encounter. The bonds among you form with other samurai become the most important relationships in your life. These men have shared the same risks, end themselves to the same endured the same hardships and committeals. They understand your struggles and aspirations in ways that even family members cannot. When one of these brothers falls in battle, you feel the loss as deeply as if you'd lost a limb. Their memory becomes part of your own spiritual burden, another ancestor whose honor you must uphold through your actions. The seasons of warfare teach you that violence, like nature itself, follows patterns and rhythms. Spring campaigns are swift and decisive, like cherry blossoms blooming suddenly after winter's grip loosens. Summer battles are prolonged and grinding, testing endurance as much as skill. Autumn conflicts carry the urgency of harvest time, when victories must be secured before winter makes travel impossible. And winter, when armies cannot move, becomes a time of planning and preparation for the violence that will surely come with the melting snows. Your understanding of strategy evolves far beyond the simple clash of swords. You learn to read the landscape like a scroll, recognizing where cavalry can charge effectively and where infantry must advance carefully. You study the way rivers flow and mountains rise, knowing that terrain often decides battles before the first arrow is loosed. The position of the sun, the direction of the wind, the condition of the ground beneath your feet, all become factors in your tactical thinking. A samurai who cannot think beyond his own sword arm is destined to die young and accomplish little. The relationship between you and your weapons deepens with each passing year. Your katana becomes an extension of your arm, responding to your intentions before you're fully conscious of them. The weight distribution of the blade, the texture of the grip wrapped in silk cord, the balance point that allows for lightning-quick cuts, all become as familiar as your own heartbeat. You learn to maintain your weapons in all conditions, cleaning and sharpening them by light after fire, exhausting marches, protecting them from rust during monsoon rains, and ensuring they remain ready for use even when you're wounded or ill. Your armor, too, becomes a second skin. The lacquered plates that protect your torso are precisely that they move, fitted so with your body rather than against it. The elaborate shoulder guards that display your family mon catch the light in battle, serving both as protection and as identification to allies and enemies alike. Each piece of your armor tells a story, from the dents left by enemy weapons to the careful repairs made by skilled armorers. You learn to sleep in partial armor when on campaign, to eat and drink while wearing your helmet, and to perform all the functions of daily life while encased in iron and leather. The horses that carry samurai into battle are bred and trained specifically for war. Your mount learns to respond to pressure from your knees and shifts in your weight, leaving your hands free to wield weapons. The horse develops its own courage, charging toward the clash of arms rather than shying away from danger. Together, you and your horse become a single fighting unit, capable of devastating attacks that no foot soldier can match. The death of a war horse is mourned almost as deeply as the loss of a human comrade, for these animals share the risks and hardships of campaign life with complete loyalty. The sounds of battle become a language you learn to read. The whistle of arrows tells you their direction and distance. The clash of steel on steel reveals whether a fight is going well or poorly. The cries of wounded men inform you where help is needed most urgently. The thunder of hoofbeats warns of cavalry charges. The deep boom of signal drums coordinates movements across the battlefield. Your ears become as important as your eyes in combat, often giving you crucial information even when smoke and dust obscure your vision. Pain becomes a familiar companion. The ache of muscles strained by long hours in the saddle, the burning of cuts and scrapes that refuse to heal properly, the deep throb of bruises left by enemy weapons, all become part of your daily experience. You learn to function despite discomfort, to fight effectively even when wounded, and to endure suffering without complaint. This tolerance for pain is not mere physical toughness, but a spiritual discipline that prepares you for the ultimate test of endurance that every samurai must eventually face. Your relationship with fear evolves from your first battle to your last. Initially, terror threatens to overwhelm you as you face death for the first time. Your hands shake as you grip your sword. Your heart pounds so loudly you fear enemies will hear it, and your mouth dry as dust becomes. But with experience, you learn to transform fear into heightened awareness. The adrenaline that once paralyzed you now sharpens your reflexes and focuses your attention is not the absence of fear, but you discover that courage decision to act honorably despite being afraid. The medical knowledge possessed by samurai families becomes crucial during times of conflict. You learn to treat wounds with whatever materials are available, to set broken bones, and to recognize the signs of serious internal injury. Battlefield medicine is crude but effective. Focus alive longed on keeping warriors enough to receive proper treatment. You carry simple supplies in your personal kit: clean cloth for bandages, herbs to prevent infection, and small tools for removing arrowheads. The ability to care for wounded comrades is considered as important as the ability to create. Your spiritual wounds in enemies' preparation for battle involves more than morning prayers and ancestor veneration. You engage in purification rituals before major conflicts, washing away the spiritual pollution that comes from taking life. You compose death poems that capture your final thoughts and feelings, leaving them where they will be found if you do not survive. These poems are not morbid preparations for defeat, but affirmations of your commitment to die well if death is required. The act of writing them clarifies your mind and strengthens your resolve. The intelligence gathering that precedes battles requires skills far removed from swordplay. You learn to move silently through forests and across open ground, to observe enemy positions without being detected, and to memorize details that will be crucial for planning attacks. You study the habits of enemy commanders, looking for patterns in their decision-making that can be exploited. You learn to read the signs that reveal pulled grass, disc army movements, trommarded equipment, the direction of smoke from cooking fires. This information, often outcome of conflicts, determines the before the first blow is struck. The logistics of warfare demand constant attention to mundane but vital details. Armies must be fed, and the rice supply lines that bring and other provisions to fighting become forces' targets for enemy raids. You learn to calculate how much food your unit requires for different lengths of campaign, to identify sources of fresh water along march routes, and to establish secure camps that can be defended if attacked. The samurai who cannot manage these practical concerns will find his force weakened by hunger and disease even before meeting the enemy in battle. Your understanding of loyalty deepens through witnessing both its presence and its absence. You see samurai who remain faithful to their lords even unto death, choosing to die rather than abandon their duties. You also witness the terrible consequences when loyalty breaks down, when retainers betray their masters, or lords prove unworthy of the devotion given to them. These experiences teach you that loyalty must be earned and maintained through honorable conduct on both sides of the relationship. Blind obedience is not enough. True loyalty requires wisdom to serve your lord's genuine interests, even when they conflict with his stated desires. The ceremonies that mark important transitions in samurai life take on deeper meaning as you mature. The rituals of coming of age, marriage, promotion in rank, and preparation for death all serve to reinforce the values and relationships that hold your society together. You participate in these ceremonies not merely as an individual, but as a representative of your family lineage and your lord's house. Your conduct during these formal occasions reflects upon all those connected to you, making proper behaviour a matter of collective honour rather than personal preference. Your appreciation for beauty becomes more refined through years of exposure to the finest expressions of Japanese culture. You develop the ability to recognize superior craftsmanship in swords, armor, and other implements of war. You learn to compose poetry that captures the essence of experiences too profound for ordinary prose. You study the art of flower arrangement and garden design, finding in these peaceful pursuits the same principles of harmony and balance that govern effective swordplay. This cultural refinement distinguishes the samurai from mere fighters as a complete, marking you human being rather than a simple weapon. The weight of responsibility grows heavier with each passing year as younger samurai look to you for guidance and example. Your words and actions influence not only your own reputation, but also warriors. You must demonstrate the development of the next generation of the principles you espouse, showing through your conduct what it means to live according to Bushido. This responsibility extends beyond the battlefield to encompass every aspect of daily life, making you constantly aware that you're being observed and judged by those who will inherit the traditions you help to preserve. The changing nature of warfare challenges traditional samurai methods and values. The introduction of firearms from Portuguese traders forces you to adapt tactics that have remained unchanged for centuries. The rise of ashigaru, common foot soldiers armed with spears and muskets, threatens the dominance of mounted samurai on the battlefield. You must learn to fight alongside these lower-class warriors while maintaining your own distinct identity and role. These changes create tension between haunting innovations, awing ancient traditions, and adopt necessary for survival in an evolving military environment. Your personal relationships outside the warrior class require careful navigation of social boundaries and expectations. Interactions with merchants, farmers, and artisans must reflect your superior status while avoiding the arrogance that brings shame upon the samurai class. You learn to show appropriate respect for skilled craftsmen whose work you depend upon while maintaining the dignity of your position. These relationships teach you that honor is not diminished by recognizing the value of others' contributions to society, even when their social rank is own. The financial lower than your realities of samurai life create constant challenges that test your adherence to warrior values. Your rice stipend must support not only yourself, but also your family, servants, and the expensive equipment required for military service. The temptation to engage in commerce, forbidden to your class, grows times of economic stronger during hardship. You must find ways to maintain your standard of living without compromising the principles that define samurai identity. This tension between practical needs and ideological purity forces you to make difficult choices that reveal the depth of your commitment to the warrior path. The preparation for your eventual death becomes a central preoccupation that shapes every aspect of your existence. You compose multiple death poems throughout your life, revising them as your understanding of mortality deepens. These verses are not morbid obsessions, but spiritual exercises that clarify your values and strengthen your resolve. The knowledge that you may die at any moment paradoxically liberates you from the petty concerns that consume others. When death holds no terror, life becomes vivid and immediate. Each sunrise carries new significance, each meal becomes a gift, and each moment with loved ones transforms into a treasure beyond price. Your training in seppuku, ritual suicide, begins in adolescence and continues throughout your life. This is not preparation for defeat, but for the ultimate expression of honor when circumstances demand it. You learn the proper procedures, the correct positioning of the short sword, the precise angle of the cut, and the role of your kaishakunin, the trusted friend who will deliver the merciful final blow to end your suffering. The ritual surrounding seppuku transforms what could be a moment of shame into an opportunity for redemption and dignity. To die by your own hand, in accordance with proper forms, demonstrates that you remain in control of your fate, even in the face of overwhelming circumstances. The philosophical discussions that occur during long winter evenings in the castle deepen your understanding of the warrior path. You debate with fellow samurai the fine points of honor, the nature of loyalty, and the proper response to moral dilemmas. These conversations are not academic exercises, but practical preparation for the complex decisions you will face throughout your career. The wisdom of older warriors mingles with the idealism of youth, creating a rich dialogue that refines your thinking and strengthens your commitment to the principles that govern your life. Through these discussions, you learn that Bushido is not a rigid code, but a living philosophy that must be interpreted and applied with wisdom. Your relationship with the common people under your Lord's protection evolves from distant superiority to genuine responsibility. You begin to understand that your privileged position exists not for your own benefit, but in service to those who cannot defend themselves. When bandits threaten village farmers, when corrupt officials exploit peasants, or when natural disasters strike the domain, you are expected to respond with the same dedication you would show in battle. This duty to protect the weak becomes one of the most satisfying aspects of your role as a samurai, giving meaning to your training and purpose to your privileges. The seasonal festivals that punctuate the year become opportunities for you to demonstrate the cultural refinement that distinguishes the samurai class. During the moon-viewing festivals of autumn, you compose poetry that captures the melancholy beauty of the season while reflecting on the imp things. Your immanence of all verses must display technical skill, but also genuine not only sensitivity to the aesthetic of the natural world. These and spiritual dimensions, cultural pursuits, serve as counterbalances to the violence that of your existence. Proving defines much that a true in all aspects of human warrior must be complete experience. The intelligence networks that support military operations require your participation in activities that test your honor in subtle ways. You must gather information through careful observation, strategic conversations, and sometimes outright deception. The tension between the warrior's commitment to direct confront on a station and the practical necessities of espionage creates moral challenges that demand careful consideration. You learn to distinguish between honorable cunning that serves a just cause and dishonorable treachery that betrays the principles of Bushido. This distinction becomes crucial as warfare grows more complex and political considerations increasingly influence military decisions. Your mastery of multiple weapons extends far beyond the katana and wakizashi that mark your status. You become proficient with the yari, the long spear that dominates battlefield combat, learning to thrust and parry with devastating effectiveness. The naginata, with its curved blade mounted on a staff, requires different techniques that emphasize sweeping cuts and defensive maneuvers. You study the use of the bow, both mounted and on foot, developing the strength and accuracy necessary to penetrate armor at significant distances. Each weapon demands its own stance, timing, and mental approach, making you a complete fighter capable of adapting to any combat situation. The armor modifications that reflect your growing experience and changing role tell the story of your career through metal and lacquer. Battle damage is repaired and incorporated into the design, creating a visual history of your encounters with enemies. New elements are added to reflect promotions in rank or special honors bestowed by your lord. The weight distribution is adjusted as your body changes with age and accumulated injuries. Your helmet bears increasingly elaborate decorations that serve both as recognition symbols and as psychological weapons designed to intimidate opponents. This evolution of your armor parallels your own development from inexperienced youth to seasoned warrior. The teaching responsibilities that come with seniority force you to articulate principles that you have long lived by instinct. Young samurai look to you for guidance, not only in martial techniques, but also in the philosophical foundations that give meaning to the warrior life. You must find ways to communicate lessons that you learned through painful experience, knowing that words alone cannot convey the full depth of understanding that comes only through living these principles under pressure. Your teaching methods must balance patience with urgency, recognizing that these young warriors may face mortal danger before they have fully absorbed your lessons. The diplomatic missions that occasionally take you beyond your lord's domain expose you to different interpretations of samurai culture and varying standards of honor. You observe how other regions have adapted the warrior code to their particular circumstances, sometimes in ways that challenge your own assumptions about proper conduct. These experiences broaden your perspective while reinforcing your commitment to the specific traditions of your own lineage. You learn to represent your lord with dignity while remaining open to new ideas that might strengthen your understanding of the warrior path. The economic pressures that increasingly affect the samurai class force you to confront contradictions between traditional values and practical necessities. Your rice stipend may no longer provide adequate support for your family's needs, yet engaging in commerce remains beneath your social station. Some samurai begin to bend these restrictions, finding ways to generate, maintaining the income, while appearance of adherence to class prohibitions. You must decide whether to follow their example or accept circumstances, rather reduce your principles. This choice and compromise becomes a defining test to the idea of your commitmentals that have shaped your entire existence. The introduction of new military technologies challenges you have learned about warfare and honor. Everything firearms make individual martial prowess less decisive in battle, while the massed formations of Ashigaru foot soldiers reduce the importance of mounted samurai charges. You must adapt your tactics and training to remain relevant on evolving battlefields while preserving the essential Yurei identity that elements of Sam distinguish you from common soldiers. This and innovation adaptation requires flexibility without abandoning the core values that give your life meaning and purpose. The alliances and betrayals that characterize your understanding of loyalty in political landscape of your time test complex ways. Your lord may ally with former enemies or abandon long-standing friendships based on changing circumstances. You witness the rise and fall of great houses, seeing how quickly fortune can change in the world of the unstalled politics. These experiences teach you to distinguish between personal loyalty to individuals and deeper commitment to principles that transcend particular relationships. The wisdom to navigate these treacherous waters becomes as important as skill with weapons in determining your long-term survival and success. The religious observances that structure your spiritual life blend Buddhist teachings about impermanence with Shinto reverence for ancestors and natural forces. You participate in ceremonies that mark the changing seasons, honor the spirits of fallen raids, and seek protection, come for upcoming campaigns. These rituals provide stability and continuity in a life marked by constant uncertainty and change. Your faith evolves through experience, moving from childhood acceptance of traditional teachings to mature understanding of how spiritual principles apply to the practical challenges of warrior existence. The family obligations that bind you to parents, spouse and children create competing demands that must be balanced against your duties to your lord. You strive to be an honorable son who respects his elders, a devoted husband who provides for his family, and a caring father who prepares his children for their own roles in society. Yet any of these relationships may require sacrifice when military duty calls. The tension between personal affection and public responsibility creates some of the most painful decisions you will face throughout your career. Learning to make these choices with integrity while minimizing harm to those you love becomes one of the greatest challenges of the samurai life. The seasonal campaigns that dominate the military calendar follow patterns that become as familiar as the agricultural cycles that support them. Spring brings preparation and mobilization as armies emerge from winter quarters. Summer campaigns test endurance and logistics as forces maneuver in autumn battles' resive heat. Carry the urgency of harvest time when achieve victory or defeat must, before winter makes further operations impossible. Winter provides planning time for recovery and the intensive training that prepares you for the next year's conflicts. This rhythm creates a life of alternating intensity and reflection that shapes both your physical condition and your mental outlook. The wounds years of service become you accumulate over a catalogue of your experiences and a testament to your survival. Each scar tells a story of a particular battle, a specific opponent, or a moment when death passed close enough to leave its mark. You learn to read these signs on recognizing the distinctive other veterans, marks left by different weapons, and understanding the stories they represent. These physical reminders of mortality serve as constant lessons about the fragility of life and the importance of making each moment count. They also create bonds of understanding among warriors who have shared similar experiences of pain and survival. The changing nature of castle architecture reflects the evolving demands of warfare and the increasing importance of firearms in military strategy. The high walls and narrow passages that once provided perfect defense against mounted attacks become vulnerable to artillery bombardment. New fortification designs emphasize lower profiles and angled surfaces that deflect cannon shots. You participate in the construction and modification of these defenses, learning to think like both attacker and defender as you evaluate thems and weaknesses of different approaches, the strength to military architecture. This knowledge becomes crucial as you plan assaults on enemy positions and organize the defense of your own laurels. The medical's strong knowledge that accumulates through treating battlefield injuries extends care to encompass understanding of disease beyond simple wound, nutrition, and the psychological effects of combat stress. You learn to recognize the signs of various ailments that can incapacitate warriors even without enemy action. The importance of clean water, adequate food, and proper rest becomes apparent through witnessing the devastating effects of their absence during prolonged campaigns. You develop skills in field surgery that enable you to save lives when professional medical help is unavailable. This knowledge makes to your lord and more capable you more valuable of caring for the men under your command. The intelligence gathering that supports military operations requires you to develop skills in observation, memory, and analysis that complement your martial training. You learn to assess enemy capabilities by studying their equipment, formations, and movements. The ability to estimate the size and composition of opposing forces becomes crucial for planning effective responses. You develop techniques for gathering information through careful questioning of prisoners, refugees, and merchants who have travelled through enemy territory. This intelligence work demands patience and subtlety that balance the direct approach favoured in personal combat, creating a more complete understanding of warfare as an science. The leadership, both art responsibilities that come with experience, require you to inspire and guide other lives and warriors while making decisions that affect their deaths. You must learn to balance confidence with humility, showing strength when others need reassurance, while remaining open to advice and counsel from those with different perspectives. The weight of command brings knowledge that your choices will determine whether your subordinate homes safely or die its return in service to your lord's ambitions. This responsibility transforms you from a warrior concerned primarily with your own honour and survival into a leader whose success depends on the welfare and effectiveness of others. The evolution of your understanding about the nature of courage progresses from simple fearlessness to complex wisdom about when to fight and when to withdraw. You learn that true bravery sometimes requires restraint rather than action, that the warrior who can hold back when circumstances demand it demonstrates greater strength than one who charges blindly into hopeless situations. The ability to make tactical retreats that preserve your forces for more favourable conditions becomes as important as the willed firm when honouringness to stand demands it. This mature understanding of courage enables you to serve effectively, while your lord more increasing your chances of long-term survival. The seasonal changes that mark the passage of time take on deeper significance as you accumulate years of experience and witness the cycles of war and peace that define existence. Each the same spring brings renewed hope for favourable campaigns and successful harvests. Summer's intensity mirrors the peak demands of military service. Autumn's beauty carries poignant reminders of impermanence that resonate with your growing awareness of mortality. Winter's quiet provides opportunities for reflection and preparation that become increasingly precious as you understand how quickly circumstances can change. These natural rhythms create a framework for understanding your place in the larger patterns of existence that extend far beyond individual ambition or achievement. The ceremonies surrounding death become increasingly meaningful as you witness the passing friends and enemies of mentors of the warrior path. Each who have shaped your understanding funeral teaches you something new about dignity in the face of mortality, whether it is the peaceful death of an aged master who passes quietly in his sleep, or the elaborate rituals that honor a young samurai who fell gloriously in battle. You learn to read the faces of widows and children who must carry on without their protectors, understanding that your own family may someday wear those same expressions of loss and determination. These moments of grief become teachers, as sensei, instruct profound as any meaning of sacrifice and knitting you in the true weight of the promises you make to those who depend upon in your strength. Your relationship with pain evolves beyond mere physical tolerance to encompass the emotional and spiritual suffering that accompanies a life dedicated to service. The ache of separation from family during long campaigns, the guilt of surviving battles that claim beloved comrades, and the frustration of serving lords whose unwise all become decisions, sometimes seem these burdens without allowing familiar companions. You learn to carry them, to compromise your effectiveness or corrupt your character. The ability, despite inner to function turmoil, becomes as important as the capacity to fight despite physical wounds. This emotional you to provide resilience enables stability, when your own heart for others even is heavy with sorrow or doubt. The training of your senses reaches levels of acuity that seem almost supernatural to the warrior class. Those outside ears can distinguish between the footsteps of different individuals, recognizing friends and potential threats by their gait alone. Your eyes learn to read the subtle signs that reveal an opponent's intentions before he fully commits to an attack. Your nose can detect the scent of fear, the metallic tang of blood, or the smoke that warns of approaching fires. These heightened abilities result from years of disciplined attention to detail and constant awareness of your surroundings. They become second nature, operating beneath the level of conscious thought to provide early warning of danger or opportunity. The political intrigues that swirl around your lord's court require diplomatic skills that complement your martial training. You learn to listen carefully to conversations that seem innocent but carry hidden meanings, to observe the subtle interactions between different factions within the domain, and to understand how personal relationships affect policy decisions. The ability to navigate dynamics becomes crucial, these complex social in rank and responsibility as you rise. You must balance loyalty to your lord with awareness that his advisors may not always offer counsel that serves his best interests. This political sophistication enables better service while protecting yourself consequences from the of-court intrigue. The economic realities of domain management become apparent as you assume greater administrative responsibilities. You learn to read the signs that indicate whether tax collections are adequate, whether trade relationships are flourishing, and whether the common people are content with their circumstances. The connection between economic prosperity and military capability becomes clear as you observe how financial pressures affect your lord's ability to maintain armies and fortifications. You develop skills in resource management that enable you to maximize the effectiveness of limited budgets while ensuring that essential needs are met. This practical knowledge makes you more valuable as an advisor and more effective as a leader of other samurai. The training methods that you develop for younger warriors reflect your accumulated understanding of how skills are best transmitted from one generation to the next. You learn to identify the unique strengths and weaknesses of individual students, adapting your instruction to match their personalities and capabilities. Some respond best to gentle encouragement, while others require stern their potential. You discipline to discover that teaching is itself a form of learning, as each student forces you to examine your own techniques and assumptions. Theaping the next generation of responsibility for SH Samurai becomes one of the most rewarding aspects of your mature years, providing purpose that extends beyond your own achievements. The seasonal festivals that celebrate the agricultural calendar take on new meaning as you recognize their importance in maintaining the social bonds that hold your domain together. During rice planting ceremonies, you participate alongside farmers and merchants in rituals that remind everyone of their interdependence. Opportunities to harvest festivals demonstrate the benevolent authority Uri class while sharing of the psalm in the community's gratitude for successful crops. These celebrations reinforce the understanding that your privileged position exists service to the Ind rather common gu than for personal ag participation in these events randizement. You must balance showing dignity with accessibility, respect for those of lower station, without compromising the authority that enables you to protect them. The weapons maintenance that consumes hours of your time becomes a form of meditation that connects you to the generations of warriors who have carried similar blades. As you polish steel, the wanoil, the moving your armor, you think parts of about the craftsman who created these tools, and the psalm scratch you. Each Uri who wielded them before an andent tells a story of survival becomes service, that part of your own narrative. The ritual care of equipment serves practical purposes by ensuring reliability in crucial moments, but it also provides spiritual benefits by maintaining your connection to the traditions and values that define your identity. This daily practice becomes a form of prayer that honors both your ancestors and the tools they have bequeathed to you. The diplomatic missions that take you to domains expose you to different approaches, other to governance and military balance organization. You observe how other lords, the competing demands of various social classes, how they manage their finances, and how they prepare for potential conflicts. These experiences broaden your perspective while reinforcing your appreciation strength for the particular your own Lorth's Oft's methods. You learn to represent your domain with dignity while gathering information that made decisions. The skills prove useful for future policy, require diplomacy, complemented for successful. Your martial training by teaching you to achieve objectives through negotiation and influence rather than force alone. The intelligence networks that support your lord's decision-making require your participation in activities that test your judgment and discretion. You must learn to evaluate the sources to distinguish reliability of different between rumor and fact, and to present information in ways that enable effective decision-making. The temptation to tell your superiors what they want to hear must be balanced against the duty to provide accurate assessments, even when they are unwelcome. You develop skills in questioning prisoners and that relied interrogating suspects more on psychological insight than physical coercion. This intelligence work demands patience and subtlety that complement the direct approach favored in personal combat, creating a more complete understanding of how information warfare supports military operations. The changing nature of warfare forces you to adapt tactics and strategies that have served your ancestors for introduction of firearms generations. That creates new possibilities for both offense and defense, while the increasing use of common soldiers armed with sibkets challenge seers and must the traditional dominance of mounted samurai. You must learn to coordinate your actions with these lower-class warriors while maintaining your distinct identity and the tensioning honor between preserved role traditions and adopting innovations necessary for survival creates ongoing and judgment. Your ability to evolve challenges that test your flexibility with changing circumstances while maintaining core values becomes crucial for continued effectiveness on modern battlefields. The family relationships that provide emotional support and personal meaning must be carefully balanced against the demands of military service. Your wife manages household affairs with the same discipline and attention to honor that you bring to your martial duties. She understands that your obligations to your lord may require extended absences or dangerous missions that could result in your death. Your children learn to take pride in your service, while accepting that their father's duty sometimes takes precedence over their personal provide motivation for your sacrifice desires. These relationships seize while creating additional responsibilities that must be weighed against competing obligations. The ability to serve both family and lord with integrity becomes one of the defining challenges of mature samurai existence. The religious observances that structure your spiritual life evolve to address the particular challenges and insights that come with extended experience of warfare and leadership. Your prayers become more specific and personal as you develop deeper understanding of your own strengths and limitations. The Buddhist teachings about impermanence take on visceral reality as you witness the constant changes that affect your domain and your lord's fortunes. Shinto reverence for ancestors becomes more meaningful as you accumulate your own contributions to family honor and tradition. These spiritual practices provide stability and perspective that enable you to maintain equilibrium despite the constant pressures and uncertainties of samurai existence. The seasonal campaigns that dominate your military calendar require different types of preparation and present aspects of your training, unique challenges that test various and character. Spring mobilizations demand rapid transition from winter's contemplative pace to the urgent activity of campaign preparation. Summer operations test your endurance and ability to function effectively, resive heat, while maintaining heavy, in-op equipment. Autumn battles of achieving carry the pressure, decisive makes further operations impossible. Each results before winter weather, season's demands require different mental approaches and physical conditioning, creating a yearly cycle that keeps you constantly adapting and improving your capabilities. The wounds and injuries that accumulate over years of service become a catalogue of your experiences and a testament to your survival skills. Each scar represents a lesson learned about a moment combat when death approached closely enough to leave its mark, and proof of your ability to endure and recover from trauma. You learn to read similar signs on other veterans, understanding the stories their bodies tell about particular battles or types mortality serve as constant teachers of warfare. These physical reminders of importance of making each day about the fragility of life and the meaningful warriors who have shared similar experiences of pain. They also create bonds of understanding among recovery and continued service. The technological innovations transform warfare require that gradually you to master new weapons and tactics while maintaining proficiency with traditional arms. Early firearms demand different training amends and regged maintenance procedures than swords and spears. Artillery changes the dynamics of siege warfare and castle defense. New types of armor must be tested and adapted to provide protection against evolving threats. Your ability to embrace these innovations while preserving the essential elements of samurai identity becomes crucial for remaining effective on changing challenge battlefields. The lies in distinguishing between superficial modifications and fundamental changes that threaten the core values warrior culture. The administrative seniority requires skills responsibilities that come with S in record management and resource keeping, personnel accurate accounts, learn to maintain of equipment allocation that complement your martial training. U, supplies and personnel under your command. The ability to plan and coordinate complex operations involving important as individual multiple units becomes as fighting skill setting subordinate. You develop techniques for motivates and without maintaining discipline, destroying morale. These leadership capabilities enable you to serve your lord more effectively while preparing you for greater responsibilities that authority. The intelligence gathering that supports strategic decision-making requires you to develop sources with further advancement of information throughout rank and in your domain and beyond its may-come borders. You learn to cultivate relationships with merchants, travelers, and officials who can provide useful reports about conditions in other regions. The ability to evaluate the reliability and significance of different types of information becomes crucial for providing accurate assessments to your superiors. You must balance the need for secrecy with the requirements of building trust among potential informants. These intelligence skills complement your military training by providing the information necessary for effective planning and decision-making. The diplomatic protocols that govern interactions between domains require understanding of complex etiquette and ceremonial procedures that reflect the relative relationships, status and of different lords. You learn the appropriate forms of address, gift-giving customs, and negotiation effectivation strategies that enable communication while maintaining your lord's dignity, and the ability to represent interests your domain honorably in formal settings becomes as important as battlefield prowess in determining your value too. These your superior proved diplomatic skills, also your own different useful in managing relationships within domain, where actions and FD interest to maintain careful handling groups require. The economic pressures that affect the SAMD Unity URI class force, stability, and you to find creative solutions that preserve your financial security without compromising your social position or principles. Some warriors supplement their rice stip production or other ends through teaching, crafts activities that remain. Others marry technically compatible with their status families or arrange into merchants. You must income while maintaining proper appearances, business partnerships that provide additional navigate to these financial challenges in your reputation while preserving and honoured your family. The tension between practical necessities and ideological purity creates ongoing dilemmas that test your creativity and judgment throughout your career. The training programs that you develop for the next generation of samurai reflect your accumulated understanding of how warrior skills and values are most effectively transmitted. You learn to identify the unique potential of individual students and adapt your instruction to match their personalities and capabilities. Some respond best to patient encouragement, while others require stern discipline to reach their full development. You discover that teaching is itself an education, as each student forces you to form of continuing techniques and assumptions. The responsibility for examine and refine your own aping future warriors becomes one of the most satisfying aspects of your mature years, providing purpose that extends far beyond personal achievement. The castle fortifications that protect your lord's seat of power evolve in response to changing military technologies and tactical innovations. You participate in the planning and construction of new defensive works that incorporate ease, the traditional high lessons learned from recent campaigns, and siege walls and narrow passages that against mounted attacks become vulnerable to artillery bombardment once provided perfect protection. New designs emphasize lower profiles angled surfaces that deflect projectiles, and multiple defensive lines that can absorb and channel attacking forces. Your understanding of both offensive and defensive operations enables you to contribute valuable insights to these architectural projects. The medical knowledge that you accumulate through treating battlefield casualties extends beyond simple wound care to encompass understanding of disease, nutrition, and the psychological effects of combat stress. You learn to recognize the early and sufficient rest becomes apparent through witnessing the devastating symptoms of various ailments that can incap the importance of clean water, adequate nutrition acetate warriors, even without enemy action, effects of their absence during prolonged campaigns. You develop skills in field surgery and emergency medicine that enable you to save lives when professional medical assistance is unavailable. This knowledge makes you capable of caring for the men under your more valuable to your lord and more command. As the years pass and your hair grows grey beneath your helmet, you begin to understand that the way of the samurai was never truly about the sword. It was about the choices you made when no one was watching, the compassion you showed to those beneath your station, and the quiet dignity with which you faced each dawn, knowing it might be your last. The cherry blossoms still bloom each spring, their petals falling like snow to remind you that all things, even the most beautiful, must eventually fade. Your legacy lives not in the victories you won or the enemies you defeated, but in the young warriors who carry forward the principles you helped to shape. They will face challenges you cannot imagine, in a world that may no longer have place for mounted samurai charging across muddy fields. Yet the essence of Bushido, the commitment to honor above life itself, will endure as long as there are those willing to serve something greater than themselves. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let the weight of this ancient wisdom settle upon you, like armor forged from centuries of tradition. Feel the presence of those countless warriors who walked this path before you, their spirits watching over your dreams. In their silent approval, you may find the peace that comes from knowing you lived not merely for yourself, but for the eternal ideals that transform ordinary men into legends. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the soul of the samurai. Until we meet again in the shadows of history, I wish you a calm and peaceful night.